morning guys, I hope you're doing great. We have another bike on the bench and it's a fantastic bike. This is, I believe, a 62, possibly a 63 Matchless G80CS. That's competition and suspension. That's what the CS stands for on this bike. And it's awesome. So this has just been picked up by my friend Ron, who bought it from another friend, and he had owned this bike for 60 years. I'll tell you a bit more about the bike as we go forward. So Ron's just brought this in for recommissioning. It's been a while, I believe, since it started. And so I'm just going to go through it like I normally do, give it a good clean. This is a 500cc single. And the reason why I say 63 is because it doesn't have the date stamp on the engine cases. So even though it's registered as a 62, I think, it just looks so purposeful, doesn't it? It's a really cool looking bike with some very cool features. And so the idea is that I'll just give it a good service, get it running again. I'll double check everything, go through the whole bike from front to back, do a visual inspection, get my fingers on it as well, just to see if I can figure out if everything's working okay. Then change all the oils, check the valves, the spark plug. So I can't wait to get my fingers on this bike and give it a bit of a recommission, and then hopefully get it started again and ride it up and down the cul-de-sac. I've been from front to back, haven't touched everything yet, but I found a lot of loose nuts and bolts as well. I've taken off the exhaust system as that was loose, and the oil feed and return pipes were also loose, so I've taken them off just to inspect them. And then next I'm going to take the carburetor off as well so I can clean it in the ultrasonic cleaner. There was quite a lot of rust and debris, oh yeah, look at that, from the bottom of the tank after soaking that in the white vinegar. So that's all out now, thankfully. And the next step is to neutralise the vinegar with some baking soda and water mix. Here's the bike on the bench and I'm making slow but steady progress. Yeah, I've cleaned the carburetor out. I took this apart, put it in the ultrasonic cleaner and everything's nice and clean. Made a note of all the jet sizes and everything. So that's back on the bench now. I did blank off the choke and I've removed the choke assembly for now. Just going to see how it runs without the choke. Well, how it starts, I should say, without the choke. If it looks like it needs a choke, I'll put one back on. But for now, I think it should be fine, especially with the filter system that it's got. New hose clamps or Jubilee clips there. What else have I done? Yeah, lots. I bought some new hoses for the oil feed and return pipes. I've got the airbox apart, so that's one of the next jobs, to clean that. Lots of little jobs like that pipe there. The old one was loose and it was just spinning around, so I've replaced that. Put new clamps on that as well. This wader pipe, the nut was loose, so I've tightened that up and just attached this as well. This was on, but it was loose, so I've just made that a bit more solid, tighten that up there. There was quite a bit of overspray on some of the paintwork, and I don't think this, by the way, is a Matchless rear chain guard, but Ron may have one, but this looks just fine. I think it's from a Norton. But no, there was a lot of overspray on some of this paintwork, so I've got rid of that. I've removed the rear foot pegs because they were aftermarket Japanese pegs and it doesn't need them, so I've just put a new bolt in there that will hold the rear silencer, the muffler. These fuel pipes, they're not great. I will replace these because, as you can see here, that one's perished as well. So I've got some clear plastic pipe that I'll use until the bike's stabilised, and then I'll get some new black piping. The throttle action is miles better now. And I'll replace this cable once again, once the bike's running. That takes a little while to order. Here's the air filter assembly on the bench. I've cleaned the element thoroughly, and it reminds me of the old one that I used to have on my old Triumph. And basically concertinas like that. And then it wraps around this here, and then that goes around on the outside, and then there's a cap here that fits into here. This whole assembly goes on the inside of this casing here, and what I'll do is I'll smear some grease on the inside of this, and then also spray this filter element with the oil here, this K&N filter oil, and then the cap goes on the inside, and then it's secured by this bolt through the outside. I'm just smearing a little grease on the inside of this canister just to catch the dust, and I don't think Ron's going to be going off-roading much, but that's what it says in the handbook anyway. I've cleaned inside of this before I did this. The next job is to look at the wiring harness. Looks like this is a new loom, but just loosely fitted. So I'm going to take the headlight shell apart, check what's going on in there, and then just follow the loom, consult the wiring diagram, of course, and then just check that everything's working okay. This model's got one of the quickly detachable plugs. That grommet also has come out as well, so I'll put that back in, but this should hopefully just pull out. Okay, we'll take a look at that. So I've got a silly question for you guys, but the bike looks cool, doesn't it? And they would take the headlight off when they were going scrambling, but then where did they put this? Did they just tie it up or string it up to the frame or something like that and tie it to the forks? I'm just curious. I'd love to know your comments to understand what they would do with that. Huh. As you can see, it's mostly disconnected. This is the first time I'm looking inside the headlight shell. We've got the switch there, the ammeter. This is the quick detachable connection here, so I'll have to check the wiring diagram, make sure that everything's going where it should. It's got some improvised wires here, so I'll check this all out. We've got the pilot bulb there that's been sealed into that fitting there, and then we do have a bulb, and I'll double check the front and the rear bulbs as well, make sure that they're working okay. Oop. Looks okay. I'm just going to quickly test these bulbs to make sure that they're working okay. I really like this Lucas tail light here. I've not seen one of those before actually. A 529. Nice little unit. I love the patina as it's faded over the years. That's very, very nice. So, okay, first of all, this is the rear tail light. So let's try that first of all. There's one. Yep, that's great. That's the brake. And that's the rear tail light. That works fine. And then this is the headlight bulb. That's fine. That's fine. Great. And then the little parking light, or pilot light, I guess. Yep, that works just fine. Good, so the bulbs are great. So that's the Electrickery all finished on the bike. It took quite a while actually, it took several days to get it finished and figure out all the problems. The wiring harness was just sort of loosely assembled on the bike, and so there were quite a few things that needed some attention. So first of all, the headlight was not wired, so I've wired all that up. And then the speedo, I'm just waiting for a bulb for that, but I've made a new wire for the speedo. Similarly, I have found the horn wire, and the horn that Ron gave to me as a spare, I fitted that. I'll show you that in a second. And I've also fitted a horn switch up here at the handlebars, and then down on the frame, you know, just try to make things as neat as possible. There were lots of damaged parts on the wiring harness, so I've retaped those with the cloth tape, the special wiring loom tape. And then here's the battery box. So that's the 6-volt battery. I've got quick detachable knurled nuts to get that off. I'm not a big fan of the lead acid batteries because they can spill acid on your frame and on your silencer. So I put just a little catch can in there, so any sort of residual acid that spills out goes into that pipe and then into that catch can. Also added a fuse here, and again on the power wire, not the positive wire, which is actually a ground. And then again here on this side, that's the speedo wire that I got the feed from the harness, and that goes up into the instrument there. I'm just waiting for a bulb to come. And then I've just tried to make the wiring loom as neat as possible. There's the horn that I hope will sit nice and snugly behind the oil tank, and I've rerouted all the harness round the bike or on the frame of the bike, even to the tail section here as well. I've created some new wire connections because there was some cross wires and short connections there. And then down to the brake pedal switch here. I haven't connected that back to the brake rod yet because I need to take the rear wheel off. I've had this switch apart as well several times, and also the quickly detachable plug here as well, that's been apart at least a couple of times while I make sure that all the wires are correctly connected. So let me show you how everything works. With the battery connected, nothing is working intentionally. That's how it's supposed to be. And then I'll just turn the switch to the first position and you'll see this pilot bulb come on here, the parking light, and also the rear light. That's very nice. We've got the little incandescent light there, and then the rear light at the back of the bike. And then turning the switch to the second and the last position should turn on the main and dip circuit. That might be the main beam there because it's very bright. And then there is a switch on top here. This is the toggle switch that turns the light from main to dip. God, that's bright as well. 6 volts. You wouldn't think it would be so bright, but that works just fine. I haven't actually connected the brake pedal spring yet, but I can pull in the switch and I'll just show you how the brake works. This is pulling the spring. And the reason for the switch here is because this is the Scrambler model and it has this QD, or this quickly detachable plug here in the headlight, so that you can take the headlight off. And again, not quite sure where you put the plug once you took the headlight off, but then you've still got electrics and you can run the electrics from this switch, which is actually very good. The action is very positive here. So otherwise, normally it would be no doubt in the top of the headlight bucket. I'm not even sure if this model would have come with a horn. The wiring harness certainly came with the wires for it because it's probably a standard wiring harness, but I fitted it anyway. I'm really happy with how the electrics worked out in the end. And now I'm just going to put a few things back together, and then it's time to start looking at the mechanical service with oil change and checking the valves and so forth.